Hi everyone, my name's Dan, and in today's lesson we're going to be talking about using the Dataverse to be able to do some conditional logic using filtering and sorting. So in the last video, what we did is that in our Hotel California booking system, we automatically assigned a room to every new booking. But we did it quite simply. So we just assigned the first room that was available, and in this case it would always be room 1. However, in real life we'd want to use some conditions to choose which room is assigned based on number of parameters, because we don't want to assign everyone to room 1 because that would just be silly. So what we can do is we can use filtering and sorting to do this. And we can use filtering when an attribute is absolutely required. So for example, we'll go into this, but if someone requires disabled access, then there's no point assigning them a room on the 5th floor. We have to assign them a room where disabled access is available. And then sorting, so where attribute is preferred and there is an order, but not necessarily required. So for example, if we have a booking of 3 people, we can give them a room where the room has a capacity for 6 or 8 people, but we'd probably prefer to give a room, if available, that has a capacity of 3 people or 4 people first, and only assign them the bigger rooms if there's absolutely no other rooms available. So it's not required, but it is preferred. So in today's lesson we're going to be using the following logic. So first of all, disabled access. If they require disabled access, so we're only going to assign a room with disabled access. We will not assign, for this scenario, we would not assign any room without disabled access, even if they're the only rooms available. That may not legally be able to do that, but this is what we're doing for this scenario. And then for if they don't require disabled access, then preferably assign a room where there's no disabled access, so we can reserve those rooms for if a booking came in which did require disabled access. But if disabled access rooms were the only ones available, then those are okay to assign. And then similar with room size. So with room size, if someone has, let's say, a booking of 4 people, we will not assign rooms which are only for 2 or 3 people. But then we're going to sort the rooms in order of size. So for example, if there is a booking of 4 people, check the rooms which has a capacity of 4 first. If that's not available, then go to the bigger capacities. There's no point assigning a booking of 4 people a room which has 8 people unless we have to, because we may want to keep that room available for when there's a booking of 8 or more, up to 8 people. Hopefully that's sort of obvious. And then C view, so if yes, then prefer yes, if no, then prefer no. So again, this is something which is sort of required, but not sort of absolutely essential. So great, let's go to our Power App. Let's adjust this camera a bit so I'm in the center of the camera. There we go. And then let's change this flow. So what we can do is if we want to have different things happen depending on what attributes of when a new booking is made. And we can do that a number of ways. We're going to go through 2 of those today. The first way is by using the control. So put my face over where I don't need to. So we have this condition control, where it's very much a if statement. So like an if statement in Excel or any other programming language. If true, do this thing. If false, go this other thing. So that's what we'll use today. We have other ones as well. We won't go through switch today, but if you're familiar with switch statements or case statements, you can do that as well. And then do until applied to each. We'll go through probably in other flows, but today we'll just use the condition. So what we'll say is condition if, and there we can use our dynamic contents. If we say disabled access required is equal to true, then it will go down this true path. So it will look at this parameter. We only have one parameter so far, but yeah, if this is true, and then it will go down this true path. If it's false, as in the condition is false, then we can go down this false path. And you can see here at the moment we're using a simple true false statement, but you can do contains, does not contain, not equal to, greater than, less than, starts with, does not start with, etc. So this is very sort of flexible at the moment, using something quite basic. So I'm just going to rename this to disabled access required. So that's one way of doing it, and then you can visually see the different paths. The other way of doing it is by using the functions, and we'll go through that later on in this video. So at the moment, if we do disabled access required, I'm going to go through, move this list rooms over here, and then what I'm going to do is I just want to list the disabled rooms. So this is a absolute filter. So in this, if I move my face over, in this sort of action we have a few parameters we want to use. So we have filter rows, we have sort by, and these are what we're going to be using. And the way we're going to be able to filter and sort is by using a syntax called OData syntax. If you type in OData expressions into your search engine, and then go to the first one, this is what it came up with for me, and you'll see here it has the filter parameter, and we can have here our operators here. It's very similar in a way to SQL, but it does have a different syntax. It's not completely one-to-one, but it is sort of similar in concepts. So what we want to do is that we want to filter by, so if disabled access is required, we want to filter so only those where disabled access is required is true. So if we go to our list of rooms, we see here wheelchair access, we only want room 1, room 4 and room 5 to appear. So how do we do this? If we go to room, go to our solution, go to our columns, and then we go to the so I've renamed the column here. Instead of disabled access, I've called it wheelchair access. So it will turn up as wheelchair access in any new view and new forms. However, when I first created the column, I called it disabled access. And so when we go to advanced tools, copy logical name, so it's a logical name that we need for an OData expression. If we go here, filter rows, note that one, copy. You'll see here it has, generally logical name has publisher, underscore, and then the name of the column originally in lowercase, which is disabled access. If I zoom in a bit, here we go, you can see disabled access. Yeah, so beware of this. You have to use the logical name for these OData columns. And then in this case I want OData, I'm going to put equal true. So just to demonstrate that EQ is the equals parameter in filter, so we have equality operator equals. I'm going to go equal true. And then so filter the rows, and then I can move this assign room to record here. And I'll leave that for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new booking with that requires disabled access. So I'm going to go to the bookings, just create a booking, and your booking, blah blah blah. One guest. Disabled access required is yes. Let's say no stairs. Leave everything as is. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go test. Can't be triggered for testing. What do you mean? Go away. If I publish it, test. Yep, manually test. You see it's waiting now for the trigger. And you see there was a little bug there. I did do some practice before and then restored it, so that could have been why that appeared. But you see it's something that should be able to be triggered with a manual trigger. So I just needed to publish the flow, and that seemed to solve that bug. So we have our new booking here. If I go save and close, it saves a booking, and then we'll see here the action should be completing soon. There it is. You'll see here list disabled rooms, so it should only have 3 rooms, and we have here room 1. Move my face out the way. Room 1, room 4, and then room 5. So that's all good. So it's done what it's meant to do. Now, what happens if the disabled access is not required? Well, then we don't want to filter. We don't want to filter the rows, but we do want to sort the rows. So if I go copy action and then paste here, I'm going to change this to just list rooms. And then if I go, let's move my face across. So I don't want to filter the rooms, but what I do want to do is I want to sort. So if I go X and then sort, you can sort by that column. Now, the column that we're using to sort is a true false column, and the default sort, so if you don't put anything in, will be ascending. You can specify ascending or descending by using ask and desc in OData. For this particular one, we want the false to appear at the top. So there are 2 ways of thinking about Boolean expressions, Boolean being true false in terms of sorting. F for false is before T for true in English, so false would appear at the top. Or false is typically 0, stored as a 0, and true is typically stored as a 1, and 0 is before 1. So that's another way of thinking about it. But in any case, if you want false to appear first, you want ascending. So, and because ascending is the default, I'll just leave the sort by there. And so now the thing we're going to do is copy this action and then paste as well, because we still want to assign the room to the record. And I'm going to warn you now, this will not save. So if I do save draft, well, it will save. If I try to publish it, it's not, well, it says no errors found, and then it's come up with an error. This is kind of a common thing when you're copying and pasting actions. So I wanted to show it. So what it's saying is flow self fade with code invalid template at message blah 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 blah. The inputs of template action assigned to record 1 cannot list reference action, list disabled rooms. So what that's saying is that we have this action here in the false line. However, I do have, when we assign the room, we use this first function, and then when we refer to the function, we refer to the outputs of list disabled rooms. However, list disabled rooms is in the true branch. So we're referring this action in the false branch is referring something in the true branch, and you can't have that. You can't reference an action that's there because it will never happen. It would either be everything in false or everything in true. You're not going to have true and then false. It won't happen. So in this case, Power Automate has been useful and told us that this can't happen and given us an error. So if I change this output, so you can use dynamic content if you want here, but I'm just going to manually do it here to list rooms, and that's fine. That should work now. Notice that in these functions you have underscores, so I have list underscore rooms, but the name of the action is just list space rooms. So in the functions it will automatically add an underscore, and I'll just leave it as assigned room to record 1. So that should now work. So now if I save and publish, there we go. So now if I create another booking, if I make one without disabled access being required or wheelchair access being required, it will give me room 2 and 3. So I want it to assign me room 2. So let's manually test that, and then make a new booking. Mr. Bean, 27th to 30th, 1 guest. Tabled access required is no. Save and close. And does it happen? Yep, it's gone through the false branch. Everything's been successful. And if I go to the actual booking itself, it has assigned room 2. And if we go to list rooms, so if we go back to our rooms, it should be 2 and 3 first, and then 1, 4 and 5 second. So if we go to our list, it would be, yep, 2, room 2, and then next one should be room 3, which is there. But we haven't filtered out 1, room 4 and 5, so we have room 1, 4 and 5 here. One question you may be asking at this point is, if we're always using the first expression at the end, why are we returning 5 rooms? And the reality is, in real life, you may have seen a warning come up just previously. If I try and publish again, you'll see this operation warning. What this operation warning is saying is that when we're listing out our functions like list rooms, we're not applying any filters or selecting anything. So if it's a massive database, it's going to return literally everything, and it will slow down. If we have a big table, it will be a very slow action. So at the end of this, you'd actually want, because you're only referring to the first one, You can leave row count as 1 for this one, and also for disabled rooms as well. You can leave that as row count 1 as well, and it will just return the first room, and that's actually all you need. What I'm doing now, I want to return just all 5 rooms for now, just so you can see the logic, just so you can see that the sort is working. Because later on, obviously we're booking everything one, obviously booking everything just as is. We're not factoring in whether that room is actually occupied at the moment. Obviously in real life, if someone makes a booking in room 2 is now occupied, and you can't rebook room 2 for another guest. You can't have more than one booking in the same room. That would be a disaster. So I know this. It's just as we're sort of working through logic, we're doing things step by step. So we're doing this basic logic just in this video, and then maybe the next video or the video after we'll then factor in and filter out any occupied rooms. But at the moment we're just figuring in this logic, so that's why we're doing things using sorts and returning all the records, just to make sure that this sort by logic is working. Great, so that's all working fine. I'll just save that draft. So what's the next thing? So next thing we need to do is room size. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we can go to filter rows, and we'll do the same filter for both. So we want, and because it's a number of guests is a required column, we don't need to factor in sort of any if it's blank. So we can do, we want room guests to be less than or equal to the max number of guests. So if I go advanced tools, copy logical name, so you want that, and then you want max number of guests, or put another way, the max number of guests to be greater than or equal to from when new booking is made, number of guests. So what is this GE? So GE is greater than or equal to. So yeah, we have our normal operators such as less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. LT, GT, LE and GE. I think that's kind of intuitive. And then we also have the conditional operators as well. So we have and or as well, like you have in lots of other languages as well. In this case, for the disabled access, we want disabled access to be true and the number of guests to be greater than or equal to. So I'll put an and here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this part of the filter and put it in this filter here. And because this is a trigger, it's being referred to outside the condition. So both the true and the false branches will have encountered this condition. So we don't need to worry about what we've put back before, anything like that. The other thing we want to do is sort by. So we want to sort by max number of guests, and again ascending. So you want the lowest number at the top and then increasing as it goes down. So if I go, the way we can do sort by here is if you want to sort by more than one column, you could do comma and then the name of the logical name of the column here. And this also gives it a hierarchy as well. So this will do disabled access first and then max number of guests sorted second within that, which I'll go through when we test. We also want to sort there as well. So if I do sort by here as well, max number of guests, that as well. Yeah, so now if we save, let's create a new booking. Let's look at our rooms. So let's discard changes there. So let's say let's say if we want to have a yeah, if we do, I'm going to maybe change this round slightly, just so it's, because the default sort at the moment is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to just sort of emphasize that that is. So I change this to 6. Even close. Yeah, and this to 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a booking for 4 people, no wheelchair access required. So I want it to preferably, so when we say no wheelchair access required, 2 and 3 should come first, and then 1, 4 and 5. And then out of 2 and 3, because the booking is for 4 people, I want 4 to come out top, because I want to save the room for 6 people for a larger booking. In case a booking of 5 or 6 comes along later, I still want to be able to offer them a room. Let's change these nightly rates as well, so they make a bit more sense. So yeah, it's 200, 150. Yep, so I want it to be, if my logic is working, room 3 first, then room 2, then 4 and 5. Because if the booking's for 4 people, I don't want room 1 to appear at all. And this is, so if, let's just check that, it's all good. So let's make a booking for, actually make this on test, manual, publish and test. Now it's, wait for the thing, now it's waiting. So let's do primary guest Mr. Bean again, 28 to 30. Number of guests is 4. Disable access required is no. Save and close. Let's see, wait a few seconds. It should come about. Yep, and now it's counted a bad request. Why has it done that? Have I made a boo-boo? I have done. What I like to do is that I like to just do things live, and if errors appear, they appear. Because I feel like a lot of being a good programmer is problem solving. So if we solve these problems together, then we can do that. So what's it saying? List rooms failed. A binary operator of incompatible types was detected. Found operator types string and int32 for operator kind of greater than or equal. Let's have a look here then. Max number of guests greater than or equal to number of guests. Filter rows, and then there's sort by as well. Let's have a look at the trigger. Failed. So that error message, when it said like string and int, that's giving the impression that it's, so a string is just a word, a bunch of characters, and an int is a number. It's saying somewhere that we're comparing a string and a number, and we can't do that because saying a word is greater than a number in this situation doesn't make much sense. Let's see what's going on here. False list rooms. Next number of guests greater than or equal to 4. Disabled access, call in max number of guests sort by. That should be it should be okay. look at this. So if we go to the raw outputs, move my face across. Let's find max number of guests here. Where is it? You probably look better than me. Yep, it's a number. So we've got here max number of guests, and you'll see it's not, the fact that it's in green text and is not got speech marks either side means that it's being stored as a number. So it is a number there. Maybe if we go to code view. Move my face out of the way. What's this saying? I'm just making sure there's no sort of spaces, because sometimes if there's a trailing space. It's okay though. Tell you what I will do is I'll do it again. Let's delete this sort by for now. So just doing by disabled access, and then see if that works. So it's test with our recently used trigger that failed. See if that part was the problem. No, so that narrowed it down. Oh, go back. It's kind of got list rooms here. Let's go back, put that back in. Yeah, sometimes when you're copying and pasting, you'll get like these spaces. That seems to be okay. GE greater than, yeah. Max number of guests greater than or equal to number of guests. Is the max number of guests here? Ah, here we are. This is why. So the incoming number we're saving in the Dataverse is a number. However, in the rooms table, it's saved as a single line of text. So that's, if you go to edit and data types, you see format here, text, and yeah, you can't really change it. There's a few ways of dealing with this. There's the proper way, which is just to delete the column and then recreate a new one and recreate everything with the number, which is the real way, which I will do for the next video. So for next video, I will change this column to a number and do it properly. But for the sake of this video, there's the other way of doing it, because there is sometimes legitimate ways that you want to do. You can convert this to a string. So we go fx, let's see functions. You can do format number if you want to, but I think one way of doing it, if I go with that, is just to put single speech marks round the number, and that should turn it into a string. Let's see if that works. Yep, and now it's run successfully. Go to room 11. Now it's assigned. It should have assigned room 3, was it? Yep, room 3. So it was, I think it was room 3, room 2. Room 3, room 2, room 5, and room 4. Yeah. So, and you see here, yep. So you see here it's saved. The number 4 is in speech marks, so that's how you know it's saved as a string. Whereas in the booking table, it's the column number of guests, wherever it is, yeah, it's not in speech marks and is green, so it's saved as a integer. Like I say, in the best practice is to go back and rechange a column, remap everything, because it will cause problems later on. But for now, I'm just going to put in speech marks just to, so we can get this flow going. And you can see a speech mark here. If we go to code view, you see the speech marks are there. Save. Yep, so that's good. So not only did that sort of work in the end, but we did have a common error, which is the different data types, and we sort of did a workaround. It's temporary, so I suggest at this stage just do it properly. I'll do it properly at the end of this video, but you can sort of work around it if you've got a tight deadline or something. Great, so let's now go to Canva. So now see view. If yes, then prefer yes. If no, then prefer no. Great. So remember which I said we had different ways of doing conditions. So one is having a condition graphically using a graphical interface. So using a action called condition. Where is it? Yeah. Adding an action called condition and then having different actions underneath that. So it could be the case saved. Then pluses aren't appearing. Let's just reload. So what you may want to do is add another condition here. So control condition, and then put in see view required yes no, and having another nested condition as well. That's fine, but I just don't want to do that because it will be a lot of branches. So now we're going from 2 branches to 4 branches, and so if we want to make a change in one and then in another, it kind of be very hard to maintain. My personal preference, so even in sort of this, is to try and limit as many branches as possible which are similar. So if everything is sort of similar but there is some conditional logic, I try to use that in, I try to factor that in using expressions within the action itself. So I think in this case, what we can do a sort by, and then so what we want to do, if we were writing this out, if we go back to our solution, see view, yep, so we go tools, see view, copy logical name. So I think, so what we want to do is that if it's see view is false, if see view required, sorry, that is false, then we want the falses to appear at the top, so you want it ascending, so you can just leave it like this. If see view required is true, then we want the t's to trues at the top, so we want it descending. So there's a few ways of doing that, what I'm going to do is going to leave sort of this hard coded, and then this ascending or descending, I'm going to change this string depending on what's required. So let me have a look here. So if I go to fx, let's have an if statement. So if the expression is a boolean, cview required is a boolean in our Dataverse, or at least it should be. So if we go to cview requested, so if that's true, we want desk to appear. We want it to be descending, otherwise make it ascending. Here we're affecting, let's move this out of the way so you can see the whole thing. Here we're adding to, we put it in single quotes because we're adding to the sort by sort of parameters, and this itself is a string. So we're adding to, we need to add a string to the string. And if you do anything with strings in Power Automate, this is how you do it with single quotes. If I go add here, yep, and then let's do the same the other side. I'm going to just copy and paste. So you can copy the whole thing here. Whoa. Yep. So there I just used the shift and arrow keys because for some reason I couldn't do it with the mouse. Paste there. I'm going to leave that if statement on both branches for now. What you may want to do instead, if you have a very complicated flow, you can save this if statement as a variable at the top and then refer to that variable. So if you need to change this equation at all, this function at all, you only change it in one place rather than remember to change it in every position which you've saved it as. I won't do it for now, but in more complicated flows, this is, I would say, sort of best practice. But I'll leave it like this for now, just to show that this is a string, and then we're concatenating with this sort by string, and this string, this whole sort by can change depending on what goes in. So if we save draft, let's have a look at our rooms. So let's say, boom, 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 if we change, I'm going to let's add a room 6. I'm going to add a room 6, which is the same as room 1, but I'm going to make cview yes. Make that 160. Yeah, so room 6, apart from the price, is the same as room 1, but I'm going to make cview yes. And I want room 6 to be assigned and not room 1. So I'm going to create a new booking. Let me just do test manually. Wait for the circle to appear. Let's create a booking. Mr. Bean again. Check in date. Check out date August. Number of guests is one guest. Do yes, no disable access required. So if this goes well, we want it to assign room 6. So if we go save and close, let's go to our flow. Here we go. It's assigned. That's gone through. Oh yeah, because I had it on current bookings. I just want active bookings. So we want number 12. Here we go. Be aware of that because I had the views, different views there. So if we go there, room 12. Yep, room 6 is there. And now let's just test it the other way. So let's say we want to disable one. Hang on a minute. Yep, no disabled access is required. So that was completely correct. So if we say one where disabled access is required, but we want the C view to be yes. No, we want the C view to be no. Let's edit this. So room 5 is no, just for now. So again, if we want, yeah, so it's the same as let's add a room 7, which is the same as room 5. No, right. Can't remember now. Yeah, same as room 5, but we don't want the C view. Let's see if that works. Actually, I'll make this. No, it's fine. No, actually, I will, because room 5, I think the default sort in any Dataverse is usually created by or the GUID. So if I make this yes, I'll just swap them around, just so we know that the sorts define is definitely working. It's not sort of defaulting to the default sort, which would give the same answer. Yep, so we want room 7 to appear with no C view, but with disabled access. So let's do a new booking. So no C view. Mr. Bean. Let's say 3 guests with disabled access, but no stairs, but no C view. And that should assign to room 7, I believe. We didn't actually test it, so it should have just worked. And yes, it's assigned to room 7. And then if we go back to our flow, there we go. Yep, everything is flow ran successfully as required. So yeah, thanks everyone. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to be factoring in not just the attributes of the room, but then also is the room already booked. So we'll put in some logic for that as well. That's a bit more complicated, but hopefully you can see how you start off with something simple, you add and you add and you add, and then probably as we add more things, we'll sort of clean up this flow to make it a bit more easier to manage. And then yeah, we'll do a new flow which accounts for bookings which already exist. So yeah, thanks everyone. See you in the next video.